So we have been talking a lot about these three Kansas City Chiefs fans who were found frozen to death in their friend's backyard. And there's a lot of speculation out there. Everyone has their own theories, but everyone is focused on Jordan Willis, the homeowner or the home renter, the guy whose house they were at when they died in the backyard. Jordan Willis. Everyone is focused on Jordan Willis. And it just so happens that Jordan is a scientist that works on vaccines. So because of his job, a lot of people are speculating that Jordan must have conducted a weird science experiment on his friends. People are speculating that Jordan maybe whipped something up, made some homemade stuff, and decided to give it to his friends. Some people even believe that Jordan was using his friends as like a trial for a new medication or something like that. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. Although I will be the first person to tell you that it is a possibility, because I know that anything is possible in this world. We live in a sick and twisted world. There is a lot of crazy stuff going on, everyday stuff that we could never imagine. We could never even possibly imagine, right? There's a lot of weird stuff going on out there. So I know better than anyone else that anything is possible. But what I think, this is my theory, I do think that Jordan's job does play a factor in all of this, but not in the way that people are speculating. I think that Jordan is someone with a lot to lose. Jordan was very well known and respected in the medical community. He's well known and respected in the scientific community. Jordan has medals and awards. He's been known for working on all types of stuff, and everyone in that community, they know Jordan. So Jordan had maybe what some would say, as far as professionally, more to lose in this situation than anyone. And I think that may be the driving factor as to why this situation played out in the way it did. I think that the three individuals maybe took something. Hell, maybe even Jordan did too, and his body reacted differently. But I think those three individuals took something. And instead of Jordan doing the rational thing, instead of Jordan doing the right thing and calling 911, I think Jordan tried to figure out a way where he could have nothing to do with this. I think that Jordan, because of his job, was so scared of his reputation that he didn't want to taint his name by being involved in this at all. He didn't want to taint his name by putting it out there that he had the knowledge that his friends were maybe doing drugs at his house. I think that he was so scared of any of that information getting out there that he didn't call law enforcement. As crazy and as stupid as it sounds, I think that instead of alerting authorities that his friends, were dead, instead he tried to play an angle where he could pretend like he never had any knowledge that any of this happened. Oh, we were all hanging out and I decided to go to sleep. He's basically trying to take himself out of the equation. So he could look like, oh, not only did I not know my friends were dead, but I had no knowledge that they were partaking in any substances or anything. He doesn't want the world to even think that he had the knowledge that maybe even if he wasn't doing it, that his friends may have been doing drugs at his house. A guy that's so concerned about his reputation, a guy that's so concerned about his future with his job. That instead of calling the police and saying, hey, I think my friend's OD'd, he'd rather pretend like, oh, I had no idea about the situation at all. Y'all can come find the bodies in my backyard if you want to. I'm just going to pretend like I had no knowledge of it at all. Because maybe in his mind, in his eyes, even the admission of, oh, I saw my friend's OD or anything like that, even if he wasn't the one that provided them with the substances in his eyes, that's tainting his name. So no, I don't necessarily believe that Jordan was conducting, these weird science experiments. I don't think that Jordan viewed his friends as necessarily a science project. I don't think that Jordan was doing some type of illegal human trials with some type of weird medication on his friends, although anything is possible. But I do think that his job played a factor. Jordan's not like a construction worker, and there's nothing wrong with construction workers. But you could kill someone and go back to construction work the next day, and no one's going to ask any questions or say anything to you, except, hey, get a hard hat, pick up a hammer. When you're someone who's literally developing medications, you're developing vaccines, and you're working on like HIV and all this stuff, that's a totally different ball game. Okay? That's totally different. Jordan can't afford for his name to be tarnished or caught up in anything, because that could lose Jordan funding. Companies that maybe want to fund one of Jordan's projects, they could pull out and say, hey, we're not going to give you any money to try to develop this or try to develop that, because we know that your friends were doing drugs at your house. Those are all factors that you have to think about. And in retrospect, now that we're on the outside looking in and all of this played out, it sounds stupid, right? Because now, Jordan, you're in even hotter water. You maybe tried to wiggle yourself out of this. You tried to make it seem as if you had no knowledge at all, but now this story has blown up. Now you've put yourself in even hotter water. Because if Jordan does have knowledge that his friends did something and they OD'd, if he called 911 that night, this story wouldn't be talked about. We wouldn't be here having this conversation. But because his friends were laying in that backyard for days, because people were trying to contact him, enter his home, and all of that stuff, and he ignored all of it, and because the story keeps changing, now we're at where we're at today. But I have a lot more thoughts about this, but before I go into that, I want to roll this news clip really quickly, because luckily they're starting to talk about this case, and I want you all to see what they have to say as well. Before I do so, though, I need a huge favor from all of you all. I need you to hit that thumbs up button, and I need you to subscribe if you haven't already. But with that being said, let's roll this quick clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Surrounds the circumstances involving 3 men who were found dead outside of a Kansas City home. They had allegedly been watching a football game with friends, but their bodies were found 2 days after the game, when worried relatives grew concerned because numerous texts went unanswered, and now there could be even more to this situation. News Nation anchor Natasha Zuves is live for us. Natasha, the attorney for the person who lives at the home is changing his story.
Yeah, it's complicated, Nicole. The lawyer for Jordan Willis, who lived in the home where the 3 friends were found dead, is changing his story yet again. So earlier this week, attorney John Picerno revealed that there was another person present when Willis allegedly left the 3 men to go to sleep upstairs. But now Picerno is saying his client actually walked the 4 men to the door before going back to the couch and falling asleep. Our News Nation affiliate in Kansas City spoke with this 5th man and his lawyer. Now, the man's attorney, Andrew Talsh, says that his client arrived at Willis's home around 7 p.m. and left around midnight. And he insists Willis and the 3 men were alive and watching Jeopardy when he went home. We reached out to Picerno about this. He declined to comment. He did tell our own Ashley Banfield Willis let his friends out while telling our News Nation affiliate he went to bed, only adding to the confusion and mystery surrounding the death of these 3 men. The lawyer for the fifth man says his client received texts from the families of the deceased in the days after they were together. Now, he claims to have texted Willis about it too, but never got a response back. Yet another inconsistency. Willis's attorney says his client never received any texts from anyone, instead only messages through Facebook. Now, the victims' families have been very vocal about their frustrations with the inconsistencies. One of the men's uncles telling us he is done with all of the conflicting stories.
It's just a cover-up. Something's wrong with the picture. Man up. Man up. Now tell us what happened. He knows. He has to know. He's a grown man too. He has to know what happened.
So Willis is cooperating with authorities. Officials are still working to determine a cause of death for the men, though, saying there are no obvious signs of foul play. Now, friends and family of the victims telling us they are just not getting clear communication from police. Nicole?
Yeah, still so many questions here. All right, Natasha, thank you.
So, yeah, like I was saying, I'm more so leaning towards I do believe that Jordan knew that something happened to his friends. But I don't necessarily believe that Jordan purposely killed his friends. But I think an accident happened. I think something happened to Jordan's friends. And Jordan tried to play it off like he didn't know what happened. That's what I think. Now, the question is, if that's the case, if Jordan knew, then what's going to happen here? What should be done to Jordan? There's details that we have to think about. Now, did these individuals die inside and Jordan tried to take them to the backyard? That right there is another charge within itself. If an accident did happen here and Jordan had knowledge about what happened, we're going to have to figure out how much knowledge did he have and what part did he play in all of this. Did your friends drop dead in the backyard? Or did you carry your friends' bodies to the backyard and pretended like you didn't know what was going on? To me, that's a big difference. It's one thing if you wake up in the morning and you see, oh, what the hell? My friends are dead in my backyard. I don't want to call the cops. I panic. That's one thing. It's a whole nother story if your friends die in your house and instead of calling police, you try to just go take their bodies to the backyard. Now, if he were to drag their bodies in the backyard, then maybe there would be drag marks through the grass or something like that, right? But we have to think about the fact that it was snowing. So even if he did drag his friends, there's a possibility that the snow would have covered up any evidence that his friends got dragged back there. And we also have to remember that we're dealing with a police department that refuses to investigate this as a homicide case. And I'm not so confident that they've really thoroughly investigated this situation. So even though there would be ways to tell if the bodies were moved, we can't be confident in believing that law enforcement really investigated this story from all angles. And the fact that it was snowing and the fact that their bodies were found like 2 days later, who knows how much snow piled up, and that could have, blocked some of the evidence that their bodies were moved. I also find it interesting that 2 of the bodies were in the backyard, one on the porch. Is it a possibility that Jordan drugged 2 of the bodies in the backyard and on the 3rd body it just became too much? Maybe he was worn out, so he just left the body right there on the porch? Or, who knows? We really need to figure out some of those details about the placement of these bodies, because I think that would help us. It won't help us necessarily solve the case, but it will give us a better understanding of what happened here, because it's not like these 3 individuals all dropped dead simultaneously in the same spot if one's on the porch and 2 others are in the backyard. I would like to know if the 2 others are in the exact same location. Are they spread out? If they're spread out, that would be weird. We need those details, but usually in a case like this, we would have those details. But right now, we're not getting them because law enforcement doesn't seem to want to investigate this case, which is why we're going to continue talking about it. I have so much more to talk about today when it comes to this case. We got new interviews from the lawyer. We got family members speaking out. I got other details about this case that I want to make videos about, so we'll be doing that soon. But for now, let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you would like to donate to the channel, you could do so via Cash App. I'll have my Cash App in the pinned comment. You could also donate via Super Thanks or for free. You could help the channel in many ways by liking, subscribing, sharing the video, ringing the notification bell, all of that good stuff. But with that being said, I'll talk to you all very, very soon in the next video.